For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Sashnee Moodley. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
What is at issue in the Financial Intelligence Bill currently before Parliament's Finance Committee?
South Africa has a problem, which is an international problem of irregular transactions, money laundering, and money being potentially being used for terrorism, things like that. And this legislation is necessary in order to comply with international regulations of the financial, something or other, alert, FTS or something like that. And South Africa had legislation before, and they have to make amendments in order to be compliant. And if they're not compliant, it can actually have an adverse effect on international transactions. Some people say it's equivalent to being relegated to junk status, in that if your transactions are not processed, the way you have to do it can cost the country much more. Now, the legislation that South Africa had before, or the bill that was introduced, made some changes, and when it went through hearings and it went to Parliament, they actually made provision for searches without warrant, which was not new. In fact, the conditions in the new bill put more restrictions than there were before. Now, this is not something that is peculiar to financial intelligence. Not only the police or the intelligence service, there are a number of regulatory bodies that are allowed, in order to perform their core functions, to have searches without warrant. So the reason why this had to be done was to be compliant and to ensure that business was conducted in a manner that complied with the law and that there's proper monitoring of it. Now, there have been objections since then by the Black Business Council and the Progressive Professionals Forum led by Jimmy Manyi, who's very close to the Guptas. So that we need to ask ourselves whether the objections, what are the reasons for the objections? Are the objections because the bill is defective? Are the objections because they stopped the accounts of the Guptas? Or are the objections because people are unhappy with the role of the banks, because the banks are an obstacle to transformation? Now, it seems that in the discussion around it, all these issues actually got mixed together. And the legislation, I think, there were a number of 4 legal counsel there, and they all said the legislation is in order. But the objection may be motivated by stopping the Gupta's account, but it is an alert to the banks that people are unhappy about the role of the banks, and that some of the things that they do, withholding of funding for this, that, and the other, may be seen by many people as making it more difficult for transformation. So I see this as something that is necessary, but I think that the type of issues that were raised are much wider than that.
What is the legal status of the bill, and if there are these objections, why are they being raised now?
Well, you know, the council, as I said, all the council said that the bill as it stands is, there's no basis for the President to say it's unconstitutional. Ismail Semenya, who appeared for Parliament, said it's not necessary, but if to meet the objection about searches, it could be that they could make a slight amendment to the effect that any searches must be done with due regard to people's dignity, things like that. But what is interesting about this, the people who brought objections didn't bring a legal opinion. Secondly, they didn't bring a lawyer with them there. So they didn't present even though the objection was based on unconstitutionality, they didn't argue that on legal grounds. Secondly, why did they not put these objections before the bill was passed? Because the bill has now gone through committee stage. We have a new committee system in Parliament since 1994. Previously they were closed, where the public can make representations. Why did they not make representations then? Why are they making it afterwards? Why did the President? First of all, by the way, the reason why it was delayed, I should have mentioned earlier, is the President didn't do anything about the bill, and they had to bring legal action to get the President to act. And when he acted on the basis of what the Progressive Professionals Forum had said. And in a sense, the President, by acting on the basis of objections that were not made prior to the bill being passed, undermined Parliament. So the situation one is in now is that people have come in through the back door, going privately to the President, or not privately, going to the President, which is not the way the process is supposed to work. And it seems to me that Parliament might well just refer the matter back to the President, or they may take Semenya's advice and just make a very minor amendment referring to dignity in the course of carrying out searches without a warrant. But I think it's an important issue in that financial regulation relates to the general battle over the institutions of government and the resources of the country, the Treasury and others. And if you don't regulate looting and other pilfering of funds, this country's resources are going to be depleted. On the other hand, it is a warning to the banks, whether it's justified or not to argue the banks are not helping with transformation. Some of the discourse there seem to suggest that the banks face the danger that they'll become a bigger target. The lifeboat issue in the same week indicates that the banks are becoming a target.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about FICA and monitoring financial transactions.